The following podcast will contain spoilers, tangents, hot takes, and excessive foul language. Viewer discretion is advised. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the first inaugural video episode of Frightmares. This is a special emergency episode. Cory called or messaged me. He was distraught yesterday.
We use emergency very loosely.
We saw The Mummy recently, as this video will be titled, and had completely different opinions, which obviously is going to happen, but I can't remember the last time it happened so drastically where, because I haven't even told you my rating yet, but I can't remember the last time it happened so drastically, especially on like a newer movie. There's plenty of times where an older movie won't work for me or won't work for you, but you know, that makes sense. But
yeah, that's just a sign of the times.
Right. So he's like, we have to do something. I was like, all right, then we're going to test a video on YouTube, because we haven't done that yet, mainly because I look like a fucking ghost. I can't, fuck. Go to my TikTok if you want to see actual good.
And I look like I'm
content.
Podcasting from a hospital room.
Yeah, it's the perfect combination. So, yeah, I mean, there's not really any format here typically on the show. If you've listened before, you know I have an entire format that we go through, but this camera needs to be more this way. There we go. So we have varying opinions. I really liked it. It's not that you hated it, you just were not happy with it.
There were some things in it that I was like, oh, all right, this is really cool. But then they would just do a thing where I was like, all right, well, you just kind of invalidated that one cool thing.
Gotcha.
As I said to you yesterday, it was just kind of a stinker. Like, it wasn't. Now, if you ask Jessica, it was just an overtly bad movie. Like, that movie offended Jessica.
I can hear it in the tone of her voice. When you sent me the recordings, I was like, oh, she did not like that.
But I mean, overall, it was just kind of a letdown, and maybe it was I let myself be swept up by Jason Blum and Lee Cronin talking about their movies. And I mean, Jason Blum is what Jason Blum is, but I do generally appreciate him for his passion behind his studio house.
Yeah.
He almost always believes wholeheartedly in the things that he puts out.
Right.
So I give him credit for that. And when you're talking the movie up, for most of the time, like, you're pretty on the money. Like, Blumhouse is a benchmark in the industry now, I would say. So I tend to take what he says with like a not as much salt as I probably should have. And that was my mistake.
Well, and it's funny too, because I feel that they over-marketed the ever-loving fuck out of this movie. I got, I think, at least 2 trailers from the company that sends me trailers and screeners, and maybe 3, but I was like, stop, you have to stop pushing this movie so hard, because one of 2 things is going to happen. One, and we are seeing both instances right now. One, it's not going to live up to expectations, and two, it's going to absolutely deliver me. So I did this in a TikTok a few days ago. You can go watch it. So we're playing out both of my scenarios right the fuck now. I don't think I've ever been more right about something in my life. So, all right, I don't even know where to start. I
do.
Okay. I was like, I have 8 points. 3 of them are about the lore. 3 of them are about family, and then 1 is gore and something else. So I've got like 8 points of things that I really liked. But if you want to kick it off, then we can just go back and forth.
I've got like 6 or 7, but like the 7th one kind of ties in to the 6th one. But my first one, and I noticed this from pretty much off rip of the movie, and I didn't figure it out until about 6:30 last night, about 3.5 hours after I had watched this movie, because I started going on IMDb and things. But why the hell could they not pronounce their own son's name without marble mouthing it? I did not know until 3 hours later that this son's name was Sebastian. It sounded like Zeb, Seb, Zip, Sev. Like, none of the things that they said were this child's name, and they never used his full name. Like, if his name is Sebastian, call him Sebastian. Like, I get it, the familiar, they're using the shortened version, but I, as an audience member, don't know that.
I don't think I really knew what his name was either, to be completely honest. Also, before we get into it, it'll probably be in the description, but I don't know who reads those. Spoiler-heavy content in this little YouTube video. So if you have not seen The Mummy, do not proceed. That's my warning. There you go.
But yeah, just the way they could not accurately put his name in their mouths was infuriating to me, because everybody, like, they made sure to perfectly pronounce every other name. Right. And I also didn't know that the mother's name was not the abuela, but like the wife of the main character. I did not know that her name was Larissa, because they never said her name once in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, the only name because I think they just said Mrs. Cannon. I think they just, Huh. I mean, I know Katie's name for sure, and I know Charlie's name for sure.
Yeah.
That's it, though.
And every one of the police people, we got all their names.
Yeah, we got all their names.
Don't get the wife's name.
That is pretty odd. Okay. Strange.
And then, okay, so now that we've brought up the wife, this will segue into one of my other points super well. I don't understand. Like, I understand, and I'm totally for, like, multiculturalism and, like, interracial relationships. I think it breeds a stronger dynamic of human going forward in the future. However, if we're having a movie about Egyptian mummies, why, for whatever reason, was the wife Hispanic and not Egyptian? Like, to me, it felt, and maybe I'm looking a little too far into this, but it almost felt like ever so slightly insulting as a viewer, because to me it says, oh, as long as we put a brown woman on screen, the audience will not realize what type of brown she is.
Yeah, I
was like, but these are two wildly different cultures, and they don't mix at all, and it doesn't help the story at all. It's just there.
Yeah, she is from Spain.
Is she from Spain? Because I thought,
yeah. Here we go.
I figured since her mother being in New Mexico, I figured they were like.
Well, like, I mean,
Mexican Spanish.
So she is from Barcelona. Like, she was born in Barcelona, Spain.
Like, in real life? Or?
In real life, yes.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like,
okay.
But, I mean, since New Mexico is right on that border, it's not uncommon to have Mexican people. Like, my aunt and uncle live in New Mexico, and there's a pretty high population of Mexican people there.
Yeah.
So that's probably the explanation I have, other than just trying to not whitewash everything, you know, because I didn't really question it, because I was like, oh, cool, multiracial, like, couple, cool. And that was pretty much it. I was like, that's progressive, we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. But I was fine with that. I just feel like it would have done the story more justice for it to have been an Egyptian woman and a white man, because then as the white audience, we get to learn as the main character is learning, instead of feeling like we're in the dark and the wife is just kind of doing wife shit, you know?
Well, like, I guess that begs the question, how many Egyptians know about this not necromancer. What the fuck was its name? The
Nazarmanian.
Yeah, is that something that's kind of common knowledge? I don't know. So if she was Egyptian, she might have already known about it. I don't know. Like, this is all speculation for me.
I guess it would be more like they would at least have there I don't know. I just felt like it would have helped the story a little bit more. Maybe not like this specific demon thing, but there would have been more, like, it would have made the 8-year time skip make more sense if the wife was like, yeah, it's really hard out here with the way police works to kind of find these people. Like, we just go from, oh, how many of them have you found alive? 1. All right, 8 years later. Well, what the fuck? We get no explanation as to why it was an 8-year time skip, except maybe for just bad policing. And it's left way too much to inference as to why that time skip happens. So I don't know. I feel like you can't take 3 cultures and smash them together for the sake of smashing them together and pray that it makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because, like, old school Catholicism and 3,000 years before Jesus demon don't mesh.
Where was the old school Catholicism?
The wife's mother.
She was Catholic, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's very Catholic.
I do love how she prayed one time and it didn't go well, and then she fucking prayed again. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? It did not go well the first time. Stop praying. Yeah. Okay. So I can understand that. I know for it being 8 years is because she was transported at some point in that plane and it crashed, and then they found Katie. So that's why there was 8 years. But yeah, you don't really get anything as to fill in the gap of why they took so long to find.
Speaking on another thing, they just kind of fucked off with. They only moved Katie because the valley was about to be flooded. And guess what we did not see in the entire movie? The valley being flooded to predicate her being moved in the first place. Like, the lady cop, whose name I can't remember at the moment, she should not have been able to go back to the nectarine farm oasis because it should have already been underwater.
Her name was Dahlia.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Dahlia shouldn't have even been able to go back to the oasis or go to the oasis in the first place, because the whole reason they were moving the sarcophagus was because things were supposed to be underwater. And then weeks after they find Katie, still not underwater.
Well, I wonder, and see, that's the thing I don't know, because you see the sign, like, please don't flood our valley. Is it something that they flood that goes away after a certain point, or is it
generally what that is? And you can reference the Deep House for it. Certain areas will decide, oh hey, we need like a water area, and what they'll do is they will move people out of a valley, build a dam on one side of the valley, and then flood that valley to have a larger natural water area for the surrounding geographic area. And like that's been happening through all of history. We've done it in the Americas, we've done it in Europe. It's just a thing that happens. So generally once that happens, that area is then uninhabitable because it's underwater. So it's when it didn't happen in the movie, I was like, all right, but then why show it? Like, I get it. It's just a set piece to move the sarcophagus from under the weirdo pyramid to get it to drop out of the plane.
Yeah.
But then you don't show the payoff of that. And it's nitpicky for me, for sure, But it's also like, okay, if you're going to give us that information, you have to show it later. It's Chekhov's gun. If you're going to say don't flood the valley in the second act, you better goddamn show the valley flooded in the third act.
So, am I correct in remembering that there was a city they mentioned called Aswan in the movie?
Yeah.
So, this is actually kind of crazy because there was actually a dam built in Aswan and heightened during the century's first few decades under British rule. So apparently that was a real from the very few things I'm skimming here, it appears that there was a dam built in Aswan where that forced the migration of Nubians to leave the area. So yeah, that
I have to take a history class for I have to take a history class of the greater Middle East to have this point not be trivial.
Well, it's reinforcing your point of them not showing it, because if this really did happen in Aswan, apparently in the 1960s, that they put a dam up, then yeah, they would have flooded it and dammed it, so there would be water there. So, and they don't say that they decided not to at any point, I don't believe, in the movie.
No, they don't. You just see the sign
that says, please don't flood.
Yeah, and then that's the whole predication of them getting in the plane. Which, by the way, where'd they get the plane?
Who?
The family.
Oh, yeah, because it was
the Keeper family. It was the two brothers that are trying to fly the plane out. Where'd the plane come from? Because,
I don't know.
Looking at this oasis, there's no place for a plane.
Yeah, that's true. I do love the explanation of when people have like ceremonial sarcophagus, they don't really check them. So you can just find one of those and put whatever the fuck you want in it.
Yeah. And
that was pretty funny.
That made a lot of sense. I was like, okay, yeah, that's a thing. Like,
no one's
Cairo and Egypt are known for relics.
Right.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I did like some of the explanations we get, but they definitely yada yada over some points. And yeah, that whole flooding thing kind of is a big yada yada to not address later. So, I wonder. Okay, all right. More speculation. But they don't say anything. This is all just pure speculation. Maybe they were told that it was going to be flooded, but at a certain time in the future. Like, they have to give them time to find a new place, get out of that place, yada yada. So maybe it was just before the flooding had happened. That's all I got for that. I mean, that's the best.
Yeah, I mean, I will accept that speculation because I have no answer for it. But they also didn't say it either, right. So we don't know.
They just left it unsaid. The timeline of after the 8-year gap from when they find Katie to when she gets back home, it's not really. It could be a few weeks, a few months. I don't know.
It's super loose.
The timeline's not very explained. So, what's your next point then?
The localities of the area, it just jumped around too much. It was Cairo, Albuquerque, underground in a really terrible house on a mountain in Albuquerque. Like, I'm all for jet setting around the world.
Yeah.
If it helps the story, not just for the sake of communication and one storyline. Like, yeah, you can have Dahlia. Like, if we're going to focus on Dahlia, we need more than like a 5 or 10 minute segment of her doing things and then jumping back to Albuquerque with the Cannon family. Or if we're going to focus on the Cannon family, we need to do just that and use just micro things or voices or emails coming from Cairo. Like, they jumped around so much, they stopped using location title cards.
Yeah,
at the bottom. I think and I get it because they're doing it so much. But also, Albuquerque and Egypt, they don't look that different, which I think is why they used the locations the way they did. I get it.
Right.
But for somebody watching not as critical as you and I, that could get confusing.
No, I totally agree. And the one, I guess, counterpoint I have to that is I know that he was moving around from, like I told you yesterday, he was supposed to go to New York. That clearly didn't happen after Katie disappears. But also, I wouldn't want to stay in Egypt either if I were them, because I don't want my other kids to go missing. So I think that's why they split them. But I would also argue, I feel that there's two storylines happening at the same time. You have Dahlia trying to figure out who took Katie, and you have Charlie doing his best to try and figure out what the fuck is wrong with Katie. So, I mean, I guess they're still related to the same person, but I feel like it does have two different paths. Because Charlie's so focused, once that skin rips off of her and he finds all those pages, he goes and he like dives deep trying to figure out what the fuck is all this shit. So for me, it's
and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And my counterpoint to that is then why didn't they just set the movie in Cairo? Like,
because
if you are so distraught about your daughter going missing, you're not leaving that fucking country until you get an answer. Like, yeah. So you said you understood Mr. Cannon's actions as a new father yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Now tell me, if you're in another country working and you've been there for a few months and your daughter goes missing, are you leaving that country ever until you get an answer?
If I had other children like they did, I think I would leave, because I do not want another child to go missing. If it was my only child like I have now, I probably wouldn't. But we also, again, they don't establish how long they stayed there after she went missing. It just cuts to 8 years later. Were they there for 5 years and nothing I don't know. I don't assume so, because he was only there for a certain amount of time in Cairo. But they also might have been on visas. That you know what I mean? That's something that's possible. They might have had visas for a certain amount of time and had to go back, and I don't know the process of that. But again, they don't explain that.
Okay. So now that we're talking,
now that we're here,
now that we're talking like government-y stuff, and I'm gonna make this point. So this is, from what we've been shown, this is the only white family in the area, or at least semi-white family in the area.
Okay.
And this man, even though he's not big time, he's still a news journalist and on TV. As an American government, we traded a international arms dealer for a women's basketball player. You're telling me that the U.S. government isn't showing up for a white girl missing in Egypt? Get out of here, man. Like, no way. No way. This would have been solved.
I wonder if there's U.S. embassies all around the world. I'm wondering if there's a U.S. embassy in Egypt.
There's gotta be.
Yeah, Embassy of the United States of America, Cairo. Yeah, so I mean, you'd have to assume that you would go there, and try to figure that out. And they also don't really explain. I think they pull out a map at one point and say this is where the oasis is. But again, I don't really necessarily know how far it is away from the city. But you're definitely right. If a white girl goes missing, it's all hands on deck. Anybody else is fucked, and that's the problem with America.
Yeah, but I was like, there's no way. Like, there would have been boots on the ground Marines knocking on the door, especially if the newscaster said, I chased the woman and then she got away in a sandstorm, which, by the way, the sandstorm, I don't know if you've ever been in one of these sandstorms, but when I was driving through Texas to go to California, I got caught in one of these. That sand blasted the paint off of my side view mirrors. This man is running through it like nothing. That stuff gets in your lungs. That gets in your eyes. It'll tear up your skin. They
literally use sandblasting to remove paint from cars to repaint them. I did sandblasting when I took an auto body tech course in high school. So yes,
Yeah. So
that'll fuck you up.
So it really took me out of the movie to be like, okay, I've been in one of those. You can't be outside in that. There's a reason that he's the only one out there. And I get it. It's thematic. It's the demon blowing the sand around. Like, I get it.
Okay.
But at the same time, that was such CGI hell that I was like, I can't do it.
Well, yeah, I know Lee Cronin tried to do as much practical as he could, but I don't think he's gonna put someone in a real sandstorm. Definitely not. Definitely CG. But yeah, I mean, you figured like the U.S. Embassy would get involved with that or something. But I also don't know. I don't know if they deal with missing people or if the U.S. Embassy is for solely getting back to them. Like, I don't even know what the fucking embassy is for.
Yeah, global politics are hard.
Yeah.
I just feel like there was way less of an acceptable like outcry, or there was way less of an acceptable amount of things done because they didn't show us anything. They just show him running around for a little bit and then he's in a production studio 8 years later.
Okay.
Like they just kind of drop it.
All right, I have some information here. This is why I do some digging when we're talking about stuff I don't know. So, working in Egypt requires a work permit and a residence visa, typically sponsored by an Egyptian employer. This process involves securing a job, obtaining approval from the Ministry of Manpower, a security check, a medical test. The employer initiates the permit. So it appears to be there on the work visa that they had. The employer would have to approve it, and you'd also have to be sponsored by an employer in Egypt. So maybe that, again, all conjecture or whatever, speculation at this point, but they don't explain that. So we're left to try to pick up the pieces as to why he didn't stay in Cairo. The job was ending too, I'm assuming, at some point. So if he just stayed there, how hard would it be for him to find work? I don't know. So I don't think I would necessarily leave, but he might have been forced to leave given the visas, in this whole sponsoring thing. So I don't know. I
mean, I guess then throw me in jail until you find my daughter, then you can deport us. Like, like I don't know. Like, I don't have kids, so I can only go off pure conjecture, but I feel like nobody did enough. Right.
Well, and I mean,
at least not that they showed us.
I got the vibe that the guy who was in charge when the kid went missing, he blamed them at first. He was like, what if they did it? Usually the parents do it. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? You think I would do this? So he didn't seem really keen on finding her to begin with. And that's why when 8 years later, Dahlia calls him, he's like, are you going to do a better job than your boss?
That's because he said out of the 194 people that I've found over the past 7 years, 190 of them were dead.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, of course he doesn't want to find a dead little white American girl. Like, that just makes the country look bad.
That's true.
He hopes that the dad did it, so then they are absolved.
Right. Okay. What else you got? Let's just keep rolling on yours and then we'll move to mine.
So going back to the characters, because I had mentioned the wife should have been Egyptian and that the three cultures just felt messy. My view of this movie was ever so slightly tainted by the main character, because for the first 30 minutes of the movie, I was like, why don't I like you? Like, I just have a feeling that you're just a bad person.
Yep.
And then through the movie, I was like, okay, I recognize you from something else, and that's what's tainting it. So, like, let me just kind of put that out of my brain as much as I can. And then we're on the drive home, and I'm like, will you look up who this person is to Jessica? And she was like, yeah, he was the boyfriend in Midsommar. And I'm like, that's why I didn't like him.
Yep.
And that's the only thing I've seen him in other than this.
Right.
So it really tainted my view of the character. And then also on characters, somebody needs to tell Hollywood that just because in the past 2-3 years we've had like 4 real good child actors
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean every child can act. And you need to stop putting kids who can't act in movies.
Which one was the one that couldn't act for you?
Both of them. Both of the two non-mummy children were bad.
Yeah.
Because Zebulon was just a brat. And the little girl, like, yeah, I get it. The little girl was not a great actor because she...
Maud.
Yeah, Maud. Because to me, she acted like a little old woman. It was like a 60-year-old woman in an 8-year-old's body.
I did like her performance when she was under the possession. I thought she was pretty good then, but yeah, even Gabby leaned over to me in the theater and she was like, she's not that great of an actress. I was like, yeah, she's not the greatest.
And then on the possession, how does that work? Like, what? Because the possessions, so like one or two of them happen because she makes like physical contact and bites them, like a la a zombie. But then some of them just like get their minds overridden and they don't really delve into how the powers work except hooky spooky ancient mummy powers.
So like she bit the grandma twice and she never fell under the spell until she died and got resurrected by Katie, because she bit her on the hand one time and then I think in the neck, but that didn't have any power over her.
But I think so I looked at it as she bit her so she was allowed to later come under the influence after the death.
So the thing with mummies is that they prey on feeble-minded people. That's why I think... So
where did that lore come from?
Listen, I did a lot of digging, okay? I did a lot of digging last night, no pun intended.
Because my mummy references come from that one Disney movie where they have a mummy in the attic, the Jimmy Neutron special where they go to Egypt, and the Scooby-Doo monster movie where they go to the monster like retreat. Or the School for Monsters. That's what it is. That's okay. My mummy knowledge references. Oh, and that one really bad found footage movie, The Pyramid.
Oh yeah, that's a really bad one.
And all that is Anubis just smacking hoes.
Smacking hoes. Okay, so from the 1932 film The Mummy, which I just recently watched, he has hypnotic powers to mentally control this woman who, in that time, they would, women have come a long way, okay? But back then, they were hysterical, feeble-minded, not as smart as men. So he is able to use his hypnotic powers to possess her in a sense to get her to do things for him. Not like possessing them to do crazy shit and kill stuff, but mummies do have a hypnotic possession power that typically... are over, well, okay, I say feeble-minded people because she didn't have a lot of power. She was gaining power throughout the movie, so she was preying on the feeble-minded people first, like, I assume the coyotes because they're animals, they're easy to control. The brother and the sister because they're feeble-minded, innocent kids. So she was able to control them as her powers got stronger, and then by the end, she really didn't need them because she was basically at full strength. So that is kind of like the lore of mummies and the hypnotic possession that they can use. Cronin just did something a little bit different with it. Instead of possessing them to do like their bidding, or in the 1932 Mummy, he possesses this woman because he feels this is the reincarnate version of his love. So he's using his hypnotic powers to draw her to him and fall in love with him. Cronin takes it and is like using it as a possession to do evil. So he does kind of flip the script a little bit with the possessive powers of mummies in a way.
And I'll accept that. And I guess I lack ammo because out of the Universal Monsters series, the Mummy is probably the only one that I don't think I've like actually seen.
And
I'm a creature of the Black Lagoon man myself.
And see, that's one I haven't seen, so I need to get on.
Fishman is cool as shit. But yeah, so I haven't seen that Mummy, so I don't have that like backing, and I understand that it is a monster verse style of movie. That's what it's meant to be.
Right.
It just, again, they use a lot of stuff that you're just supposed to infer.
Right.
Like the backbone black metal symbol on the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's the symbol of the demon.
Right.
But you only figure that out like when the keeper lady is showing up to confront Dahlia, and you see it as a rear view mirror hanging as well. And you're like, oh, okay, that must be the symbol of the demon.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just carvings on the outside of the pyramid that look different from the carvings of the inside of the pyramid, and they don't explain it. Nothing in this movie gets explained. They just show you a few tidbits and say, figure it out.
Well, see, and going off of the lore of the original Mummy, I feel the one thing that they did explain fully is the lore dump of how Katie came to be in that sarcophagus, because they find the videotape, which shows her name is the magician, the lady that is tasked with keeping this demon in the sarcophagus, or whatever you want to call it. But the demon, the Nazmaranian, is called the Destroyer of Family. It would move from person to person, possessing them and turning their loved ones against each other. And it turns out that the magician's ancestors are the ones who stopped it. At some point in the past, a ritual was performed to trap the creature in a living body, which was then wrapped in strips of cloth featuring protective spells and entered into a sarcophagus housed in the belly of a black pyramid. In the present day, that resting place now sits beneath the magician's family's home, and the eldest child of each generation is tasked with protecting it. If the body shows signs of failing, the ritual must be performed again. That's exactly why they have that canary there. My wife said it's very akin to a canary in the coal mine, because they are... Right. So that's why they have that there. And how the Nazmaranian gains its power back is Larissa accidentally tears a chunk of skin off, and that's when we find that Charlie starts picking the skin apart, and there's more pieces of cloth that she was buried in, layered together and covered in writing. So he uses those to unravel the mystery of how the ritual turns the host body into basically the Nazmaranian's prison. Being awakened and released from the sarcophagus is not the same thing as being freed, because the protection is baked into the skin itself. So Katie's, when she starts self-harming herself, is actually an attempt to remove those spell bindings, which still exert their effects over the Nazmaranian. So all of that was explained, and I thought that was fucking incredible, because
I agree to a point, but then at the same time, I was like, the way lower budget and way shorter Autopsy of Jane Doe did it better. With the tattoos inside of her skin. They cut her open and tattoo her and then close her back up, so she's like forever in a prison and she can't remove it.
Plug for that movie if you've never seen it. That fucking movie is goddamn amazing. It's the craziest cast too. Brian Cox and Amelia Hirsch.
Yeah.
What the fuck? So.
But speaking on the magician and her family, why? So if they've been doing this for, I think they said it's the 87th time they've had to do the 84 or 87.
Yeah, something like that.
By that time, how have you not built a system to where you have a baked in vessel in this family? Because obviously you feel some type of way about snatching a little white girl. Like, you're not happy about it, but you have to do it. But in that same breath, they say that any living human will do, just innocence work better.
Yeah, it keeps them in there longer.
Let me tell you, for pretty much every year of my adult life that I have owned a vehicle, I buy used tires.
Okay.
Because they may not last as long as brand new tires, but they're way cheaper and way less hassle. And it doesn't make that much of a difference. It's a difference of like 1 or 2 months.
Right.
So you're telling me that an innocent child that has nothing to do with anything is going to be that much more potent than some line of children baked into this family already.
Right.
Like, and so if the magician knows as a child that she's going to be tasked to do this and she just fucking accepts it, you bake in this child, and from off rip you tell this child, hey, like, this is what you were born to do. We are going to condition you to be accepting of this, and you brainwash the child from rip. Bada bing, bada boom. No fucking movie.
Well, that's the thing. They don't know when this is going to happen. They usually say, I mean, I think this time it was 8 years. So you could do that for sure, but how innocent are they going to be? Because that kid is going to start sneaking around the house at some point. They're going to realize that their parents are up to nefarious things. I mean, they have to know. I mean, the brothers are transporting the sarcophagus, so they clearly have known about this for whoever knows how long. And I think breeding a child just to put it in there, unless you're just a completely soulless mother, that is going to be extremely tough to birth a child, wait for it to need to be replaced, and then give that child up. That would be very hard for a mother to do. Again, unless you're just a soulless person, because you have a real connection to that baby that you've, pushed out of you. People who are surrogates have a really tough time doing that because of the postpartum depression and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, there are people, you know what? They should just go to a fucking adoption agency. That's what they should do. That's the real answer there. You go adopt a kid and just fucking throw them in there.
Or pick up a fucking homeless child. Go one country over to some war-torn area and pick up an orphan child whose parents got killed by other child soldiers. Like,
I also wonder,
they're in Africa. The amount of children that don't have parents
is probably very high.
Astronomical.
Well, and I also wonder what their definition of innocence is. Is it living a vanilla life and not experiencing atrocity? What's their definition of innocent? Is it just any young kid who really doesn't have the cognitive ability to understand how the world works? It's a loose term.
And if we're going based off of the religious version of innocence, nobody's innocent. Everybody's born with original sin.
Correct.
And you have to work to it to be absolved. Like, there's there's just so many ways that they could have done this to tie a bow on it, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Katie doesn't get snatched. There's no movie. What's the point? But the point is there's a way to do this without doing it the way you did it and causing all of this hubbub.
Right. To do it more secretly.
Yeah.
Or as secretly as you can.
Like, because they fucking Cabin in the Woods. Like, all of that is ultra clandestine. And you have to set these people up and make them willing to do what they're doing so that the sacrifice works.
Yeah.
But there's a whole machination of something that's even older than the Nazmaranian.
Right. So it's entirely possible, and again, more speculation, it's entirely possible that the daughter Layla just happened to come across Katie and started becoming friends with her, giving her candy because she was like, this is the perfect choice right here. It could have just been a matter of timing. Everything worked out perfectly. They were there around the time. But again, it's all speculation because they don't really go into the depth. They don't really go into the depths of some things I feel they needed to, because it could have been, I mean, who have you used before? What was it? Another white guy that just happened to be there? Does it only have to be white people? Like, what's going on here? I don't know.
And on the subject of Layla, why could we have not have gotten the movie of the magician, Layla, and that I wanted the story of how Layla got her tongue cut out. That was I was like, okay, you're going to show me that and just say, oh, it's because I wanted to tell the truth, and then not go any further? I wanted that story. That was going to be way more interesting than Mr. Midsommar and whatever his family's doing.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to speculate and try to guess because they, like I said, they just don't address certain things. And I don't know. It's just this is how it works though. Some of these things I'm like, sure, whatever. This is just the story that we're given and I'm just accepting it. But then, there's people like you that just dissect it more and want to know information. Especially because I know, and that's why I thought you would enjoy it because of the lore, but it's the reason that you didn't like it was actually because of the lore, or that was at least a big portion of it.
Yeah, I feel like they lured themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
Because they give you like the spell rags and the reason why it happens, but also, okay, so then they figure out they can just transfer the demon whenever with just magic words. Dahlia knew that the magician was alive because she was the one that shot her.
Yeah.
So they're both in the same geographic area. One's a police, one's a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are aware of each other being alive. Once Dahlia got the tape,
mm-hmm.
why didn't she just go, oh, hey, we can transfer this back to her? Why did it have to go through the dad why didn't they just take Katie and then use Katie to put the demon back in the magician?
Well, I mean, she did shoot her in the chest and then completely leave her there on her own. I would assume she'd be made aware that she was alive, but I mean, I don't know. Because also, did paramedics show up there? How did she get in jail? There's a lot of stuff that's unanswered because she straight up left that lady on the floor to die when she started chasing Layla, and then it pretty much cuts to her watching the videotape. So
yeah, but you would think that after Layla complies, gives you the videotape, you go, I should probably turn around and check on that person that I shot.
Right.
Being a cop and the paperwork I'm going to have to file, like, you would think there would be some backtracking on that. So that's how, and again, way too much just having to infer on things that happened. I assume she got with Layla, got the tape, went back, checked, called it in. She tried to attack me with a knife.
Yeah.
Take her to the hospital, lock her up, yada, yada, the whole police thing.
Right.
But they don't tell us that. And I get it. It would have been a 4.5 hour long movie if they would have gone into all these details. But my thing is, don't put details there that you're not willing to explain.
Well, and I think
that you cannot explain.
There's also a high risk of trying to transport Katie back in the condition that she is with all that power back to fucking Egypt, because that is like a 20-hour plane ride from New Mexico to fucking Africa. That's a long plane ride, so that'd be way too risky. But speaking of that, that's one of my points. Is this is gonna go off subject for a second, but it'll come back around. Don't worry. So one of my favorite things is how Cronin represents family, like the warmth of family, and not even just with the canons, but also with the magician's family. Now, of course, the magician herself, kind of rude, not like, she doesn't seem to like her family, but you can tell that the dad and the 3 kids have a great relationship because they're singing in the car, they're having fun. So you get to see a great family dynamic in both of the families before all of the chaos happens. Even the canons have a great connection, the fighting of the children is unavoidable. That is always going to happen. But then both families are shattered by basically the same event, because the death of the magician's husband which is, I assume, just wrecked the family. And then the disappearance of Katie, life for either family is not the same. And this is made evident when Katie's returned. Like, Larissa is dedicated to helping Katie and saying, I can fix her, while harboring anger towards Charlie, and who she clearly blames for the daughter's disappearance. And Charlie's still overcome with the guilt. He does feel responsible, and he obsesses with uncovering what really happened to her in his way of searching for absolution. But what makes the ending so impactful for me is that Charlie sacrifices himself to save his daughter, because he couldn't protect his daughter the way he wanted to the first time. And then Larissa is able to finally forgive him. And then they set out to punish the person who originally did this. I thought the ending was the best fuck you I've seen in so long. Despite all of the issues and connections that they didn't make, I was like, this is the biggest fuck you of all time. I really enjoyed that ending, especially when Charlie was like, just fucking do it, like, transfer it to me. I was like, he's making a sacrifice because he can do something about his daughter now when he couldn't before.
And see, with the ending for me, I felt like this movie could have ended 3 separate times before that ending. And I think it would have been a cooler twist on the Mummy's story if Katie gets to her power, kills the grandma, fucks up the 2 children, kills the parents, looks at the camera, movie's done. Like, Mummy wins, Nazmaranian is out wrecking shit, a la almost the ending of Evil Dead Remake 1.
Yes.
Like, granted, that demon also got beat by a chainsaw to the head, but there was that moment where you're like, oh, does the demon win? And we had like this nice little nestled area of time where in horror the bad guy won.
Oh yeah.
And it was fucking cool.
Yeah.
And it was really fucking cool. And more recently, we've gotten back around to family trauma, everybody hurts, demon rises to power, and it's the power of family that beats it.
Right.
The friends we made along the way. And it just, no matter how cool they do it, it feels trite to me. Because I'm sick of the good guys winning in horror movies. And I just wanted a different ending. I thought it would have been cool if they ended it where the mummy wins. I thought it would have been cool if they ended it where the dad sacrifices himself and then they communicate through Morse code, end the movie.
Yeah, I really, honestly, once they were communicating through Morse code to the dad, I was like, okay, we're done. And then it kept going and I was like, okay, but you better make this good.
And they should have reintroduced the Morse code from Katie way earlier. You could have shaved 20 minutes off this movie if the whole thing that you introed the movie on came back in something other than the last 30 minutes of the movie.
No, it was much before that.
Was
that was when she was like still hunched and like she could barely move, is when she was doing the teeth chattering. That had to have been within at least the first hour. I wasn't timing shit, so I don't know.
Hey.
But I know it happened relatively like soon-ish after she got home. But it is also a 2-hour and 15-minute movie. It's a little long. But that was the first sign that Katie's still in there, but she is not in control at all. The Nazmaranian is like kidnapping this host to try and do its bidding for it.
So I do have my one funny hot take. Speaking of the Nazmaranian,
let's go.
Bagul has been usurped for the shittiest demon. And the new shittiest demon, in my opinion, is the Nazmaranian.
Oh, man. What's wrong with Bagul?
You know, I have said this for years. Bagul is the worst and laziest demon.
Oh, that's
because
right. You don't
he
like
he
you don't like
makes
Sinister.
all the children do his bidding, and all he does is stand there menacingly. He does not raise a goddamn finger to do nothing.
Yeah, I remember you are not a fan of Sinister. That is correct. I couldn't remember who in my circles was not a fan. That's right.
And this movie felt like James Wan presents Hereditary, played by Sinister.
I did feel there was definitely a vibe of Bagul there because, and now I don't know how many kids they've used in this ritual, but in this case specifically with the child, it did very much feel like Bagul, but instead of having an not ethereal, what am I looking for? What's the word here? A fucking actual form. He's just this manifestation inside of a child.
Yeah, a corporeal form.
Corporeal form. There we go.
I had to think about it too.
I'm like, there's a fucking word out there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there anything else you had? I had like a couple more points.
I'm sure that as you're talking, I will spark plug my brain.
Okay.
But I've gotten most of my main points out.
All right. So I'll go through the rest of mine, and then I'm for all the haters out there that say this is just Evil Dead with mummies, I'm gonna completely
except it's not. It is nothing like Evil Dead. I'm
gonna annihilate it. Like I have so many fucking points as to how this is not an Evil Dead movie. I'm gonna annihilate I hope the right person sees this and is like, you know what? It's not Evil Dead Rise. I have plenty of points. So the first thing for me that I wrote down was they built the entire ad campaign around what happened to Katie, which they answer in great detail. I obviously figured we would get an answer, but I did not have any idea if it was going to make sense or if it was going to be lazy. So for me, when you build your trailers and everything, like the catchphrase was what happened to Katie, and you answer it in detail, cool, love it. I also love the use of the scarab because it wasn't just there to immobilize Katie, because the magician pulls out a nectarine and it's something that they grew on their farm. She says an actual phrase because she can do some bits of magic. Scarab emerges, jumps down the fruit, immobilizes Katie, but the bug emerges again when Katie is discovered 8 years later when she wakes up, suggesting that it is a larger part of the Nazmaranian ritual rather than something to just facilitate kidnapping. In all likelihood, its effects are similar to what the sedatives do when Katie is awake, just an extra block on the demon's control of its host body. So I like that.
And I learned yesterday, I didn't know what a nectarine looked like.
Yeah, same. I
thought it was an apple, and I was like, Snow White reference?
Right? I was like, is this what? Yeah, I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, it's a nectarine. Okay. Going back to kind of the family dynamic as a father, and I think this is why I was able to look past some of the issues that you had, because I connected with Charlie on such a deep emotional level. As I have a daughter, I would do anything to protect her at all costs. His emotions resonated with me, again, on just such a personal level. I felt everything he felt. The frustration with the cops when they blamed him for Katie's disappearance, the utter dismay written all over his face when it cuts to 8 years later and he's not in New York, he's back in New Mexico, and the guilt of not being able to protect her when he slammed that table down after the police said, they kind of were like, what are you, they probably did it, and he like slams the table down and yells at them. My wife and I looked at each other and I was like, me, and she was like, you. Like, yep, that would be me. I would never do anything to hurt my daughter. She is my fucking world. And then the last thing I had was the goop and the gore. There were so many fucking fluids in this movie. Oh my God. I'm good with blood and guts, but when Katie drank the embalming fluid that came out of the grandma, oh my God, I couldn't look. I fucking couldn't look at that. That was disgusting.
Speaking of fluids, what was up with the floor?
What?
What was up with the rotting goop floor? What was that?
Wasn't that all the skin she had taken off and hidden underneath the rug, right?
Was that skin?
I thought it was, yeah. I thought that was all the skin she was taking off because the demon knows what that shit is, and because she starts mutilating herself. I'm pretty sure that was more skin.
But she Charlie finds it way before she starts ripping skin off. Remember, he's like looking under the rug, and then he hears a noise and he has to go check it out.
Mhm.
And then like way later, she's able to crawl through the floor because it's all rotted and pestilent.
Yeah, because when and this is part of my goop and gore, when the toenail scene is happening. So this is my like weird speculation here. Like I really feel that Lee Cronin heard how disappointing the tattoo gun and cheese grater were from the Evil Dead, because they were kind of, in the trailer you're like, oh, this is gonna be brutal, and they kind of were underwhelming. So he's like, all right, heard, because I thought the toenail ripping scene was just gonna be the toenail and maybe like some skin. That shit went all the way up to her knee, and I was like, oh, I was like, no.
See, I audibly and visually cringed when it happened.
Yeah.
And then after it went on, before she got the fire poker, I was like, yeah, that was dope. But also Deborah Logan did it better. Like that was my main takeaway from this movie, is so many other movies did the same thing better. And I was like, man, how much did Lee Cronin poach some of the things in this movie? Because a lot of this has already happened almost verbatim as to what he's filming.
Okay.
So I was like, it's not as original as it could have been. But then once she got that fire poker in there, I was like, all right, we're back to originality now.
Oh God, yeah, she was just jamming it down. I was like, So
but my favorite goopy, disgusting kill, though, is probably the first one with the magician's husband with the fucking hook, just retching him up into the air. I was like, yeah, just this for the rest of the movie. Like, I'll just watch him struggle on this chain for the next 2 hours and be happy.
That was really good. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. That was a pretty killer cold open. It was really good.
Also, how do they get the hooks under that thing?
What do you mean?
Like, from the way it seems, like that top slides down and sits flush with the bottom of the sarcophagus, and it looks to be like one sealed box because it doesn't open from the top. How do they manage to get the hooks under without lifting the entire thing?
Remember when Dahlia is investigating down there, there is a small raised concrete platform. If you notice, the sarcophagus is gone, but there is a sarcophagus shaped about, I'd say, 6-inch concrete slab that sat underneath it. So that's how I'm assuming.
So
Yeah.
Here's where the disconnect happened, is because it was shot from overhead, and I have terrible depth perception. I thought it was an indent into the ground. I thought it sat in that, not on top of that.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so I will nix that complaint because that does make more sense.
So about I forgot, I don't know, I wrote this down, but maybe it's entirely possible that it's in my it is. Okay, so that's in my Evil Dead comparison. I think that was all I had for the goop and the gore. Wicked practical effects. I feel like Lee Cronin. Yeah, there wasn't like gratuitous gore, but I would say there was gratuitous fluids, and I was like, and that skeeves me out. So that really got under my skin. But I think there was a pretty solid amount of gore, especially with the death of the grandma. I know the coyotes really don't make sense, and my speculation was that somehow Katie was able to, use her possession to whatever. But it was still a really cool kill because
the kill was really cool. But it was also Dracula powers, not mummy powers.
Yeah, she gets yoked up by the crucifix, thrown out the window, and then lands on the car. I was like, horrifying. And then the coyotes come and start disemboweling her. I was like, Jesus Christ. That was a lot to see. So I think that's all I have for my likes. Was there anything that you did enjoy about, just something?
Oh, no, I mean, yeah. So like all of the violence, top tier.
Yeah.
It was, like I said to Jessica, like even though the violence was super awesome, it feels like they built the movie around the violence.
Sure.
Lee Cronin was like, oh, I've got some awesome fucking mummy kills floating around in my brain. How do I make these link together?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And two of my favorite things of this movie are also two of my like most nitpicky things ever. But every time it happened, I had to stop myself from audibly laughing in this quiet theater. Number one, longest phone cord in existence.
Oh, God!
This woman walks through 2 rooms and then out onto a balcony, and there is still slack in the line.
Gabby and I did the same thing. I looked over, I was like, how the fuck long is that cord?
I was like, this rivals the Paranormal Activity phone cord.
Or the Napoleon Dynamite phone cord when he goes all the way outside. Oh shit! What's the other one? My second favorite thing about this movie is what in the actual fuck was going on with these H.H. Holmes murder tunnels in the fucking walls that seemingly ran somehow 360 around the entire top floor of the house. And it wasn't like a crawl space. It wasn't like, full-grown human adults had to kind of squat and had inches on either side of their shoulders. I'm wondering if that is an attic, but they had a bunch of stuff
because
in there.
You go through the little door in the side.
Right.
It's inside of the walls.
That's true.
You have an outer wall tunnel, interior wall. Like the only reason this was built this way is to have scary chases through the house.
Yeah, that was very bizarre. I was like, is this a crawl space? Is this an attic? What are we doing here?
And maybe since this is going on YouTube, may reach a larger audience. If you live in ABQ, do you guys not do attics and have weird murder tunnels in the side of your house? Because I didn't spend any time in New Mexico. I spent time in California. I spent time in Arizona. And guess what? Those places have regular ass basements and regular ass attics. Just nobody goes in the attic because you roast alive.
I had family out in Los Alamos, which is a bit north of Albuquerque, and they did have a basement, but definitely no weird fucking whatever that was. So, all right. So, everyone I see it everywhere on social media, and I'm tired of it. So here are I'm gonna rattle these off as fast as I can. Point number. So
Get them.
I have 6. Well, it's just annoying, and I feel like I have pretty good points, and I also feel like I have 2 other reasons as to why it's being compared. So number 1, the core engine of the movie, the Evil Dead Rise, is possession chaos, and The Mummy is a mystery unraveling. Evil Dead is a pressure cooker. It is about containment and escalation. Once the evil is unleashed, it is a relentless siege movie. The Mummy is a slow burn investigation, okay? Cronin literally described it as more of a maze with a detective angle and not a non-stop gore ride. Evil Dead Rise is how do we survive this night? The Mummy is what the hell is happening to our child? That's point number 1. Point number 2 is the theme. Nihilism versus grief and denial. Evil Dead is mean. It's about inevitability, corruption, the destruction of an entire family unit, minus 2 people. The Mummy is rooted in grief after the loss of the cannon's daughter, and denial when they clearly see something is wrong, but refuse to do anything about it at first. And this is where Cronin actually pulled from personal loss the death of his mother, who died on the same day he finished Evil Dead Rise production, and working on The Mummy actually helped him process her death. He even made a phone call about keeping her false teeth when bringing her home for the wake, which was included in the movie.
Oh, that was my other favorite part of the movie.
Oh, when she put the teeth in?
Yeah, and then gives the big, nasty smile. I was like...
So the story is literally about a family wanting their daughter back, even though something is clearly wrong. That is a huge difference. The family in Evil Dead Rise is torn apart, where the family in The Mummy refuses to let go. That emotionality, or the emotional motivation, changes everything about how the story plays out. Monster function, external force versus emotional Trojan horse. Evil Dead Rise, the Deadites are pure antagonists. No ambiguity, just evil hijacking of bodies. In The Mummy, the monster is a missing child who is returned to her parents and now possessed because of the ritual that they had to do. So instead of let's kill the thing, it's is this still my kid or is it too late? That creates a moral hesitation instead of an immediate survival instinct. Number 4, narrative structure, linear escalation versus fragmented puzzle. Evil Dead Rise is one long climb into intensity, and The Mummy jumps between disappearance, reappearance, and investigation. There's so many different levels to The Mummy, it is a kind of a supernatural mystery detective story, not a straight-up survival horror ride. Tone and pacing. Evil Dead Rise is aggressive, claustrophobic, as I mentioned, almost breathless. The Mummy is uneven, a little bit slower, more atmospheric. It tries to balance the dread, grief, and grotesque imagery all evenly. Even critics who didn't like it point out the fact that it's aiming for something more sprawling and psychological rather than pure intensity. And the last one I have here is the genre blend. Evil Dead Rise is a possession movie, obviously, with splatter horror and siege horror, and some body horror too. The Mummy is also a possession movie, but it's mixed with body horror, detective noir, and family drama. Cronin compared it more to Poltergeist meets Seven than to Evil Dead, which is a completely different cocktail. So where people are not wrong in the similarities, both have possessed children. So you have maternal horror, both lean heavy into body horror and gore, both use domestic spaces as battlegrounds, and both have Cronin's signature, let's make this deeply uncomfortable. So sure, they hit some similar story beats of a family under attack by a supernatural presence, the transformation of a loved one into something monstrous, and an escalation into grotesque violence. But those are horror archetypes, which is proof that they are not the same movie. Evil Dead is about surviving evil. The Mummy is about refusing to accept it, even when it's sitting at your dinner table. Drop the mic. There you go. That's what I have.
And I would say on your same subject, for me, and this is going to be really petty, the biggest difference in Evil Dead Rise and The Mummy is the influence of James Wan.
Yeah.
Because the Evil Dead Rise is so saturated and it has such a distinctive lighting and color palette to reinforce what's going on. And through the entire Mummy movie, I was like, all right, James Wan had too much to do with this. Everything's green and brown, and everything has that James Wan, Jason Blum, dreamy, blurry, edge of camera thing going on. Everything that wasn't in the main vignette focus of The Mummy, it was all blurry.
So
like, I was trying to, like, because I do this thing where it's like, all right, it's a spooky movie. Let me look in the background. Let me look off to the sides.
Yeah.
See if I can find any Easter eggs. And it was like, I can't see anything. Like, I cannot make out that lamp that is sitting on that table because it's a blur blob. Fucking James Wan, do something else.
So fun fact, I actually have a counterpoint to that. It is the same cinematographer in both movies, and I watched Evil Dead Rise literally the next morning to have a comparison, and there are so many of those same exact shots. They're called split diopter, where you have something close in focus and something further away in focus with a blur there. And there were a lot of those in Evil Dead Rise. A lot.
So I'm speaking more on pretty much, and I'll use any shot in the house. Okay. There's a section where Maud comes out of her room and you get the shot of her in the hallway, and then she looks over to Katie's room where you see the locks on the door and stuff. And then before she starts running down the hallway, it cuts back to her. And there's literally like a vignette, but instead of it being dark on the edges, it's just blur. It's not split diopter. Okay. It's like we're making you focus in the center of the frame, and everything outside of the center of the frame looks like behind me. It's just a blurred, contrasty mess.
So that might actually come from that he in certain shots, they were using an anamorphic lens, which kind of creates this warping and distortion on the edges. John Carpenter used an anamorphic lens for Halloween, and it was only in certain scenes of this movie, because I noticed it when the camera's slowly panning, you can see the edges kind of rotating weirdly. It pissed me off because there was no reason.
I could also see the edges jiggy jag a little bit, like they would be
it's an anamorphic lens, and there was no reason to use it in this fucking movie. It irritates me when people use anamorphic lenses for literally no reason. So you're talking about that, but yeah, there's also a lot of split diopter shots in both movies. Same cinematographer though, but obviously this is a Blumhouse Atomic Monster production, so I'm sure and they're all producing it, so they probably had some sway. But the other two reasons I think people are comparing it is because he did Evil Dead Rise first and then The Mummy, and everyone's like, oh, it's just Evil Dead Mummy, or Evil Dead wrapped in a mummy. If he did The Mummy first and then Evil Dead, probably wouldn't have this speculation. And also, if fucking any other director did The Mummy, we would not be having this conversation at all.
Yeah.
Like, we would not. It's the fact that he did them so close together, and they both involve possession and a family being torn apart. I'm telling you, if it was fucking James Wan's The Mummy, we would not be having this conversation fucking at all.
I also probably wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
So for me though, like Evil Dead Rise, the first time I turned that movie on, I think it was like minute 20.
Yeah.
Jessica and I were like, no, we got to turn this off for the minute. This movie is too intense for my mindscape right now.
And it's only like 97 minutes too. It's fucking quick.
And not a single time in this movie did I go, this is too much for me. Like, part of me was looking for the remote to hit the down button to see how much time I had left on this movie.
In the theater, yeah.
In the theater, yeah. I was like, God, it just so much. And speaking of that, going back to the meshing of three cultures.
Yeah.
If you're going to make me read subtitles, you better goddamn make it one language. Because, so, like, we have to read the subtitles of the grandmother, and then we have to read the Egyptian subtitles as well. And what my brain does when I watch a movie where I have to read subtitles, I'm listening for words that they are going to repeat. Mm-hmm. So that when I'm listening, or when I'm reading, I can clue back in to the movie a little bit. Sure. So I don't necessarily have to focus as much on reading.
Yeah.
Now I'm having to read Farsi and Spanish. Yeah. And it jumbles my brain frequencies up because I'm like, okay, wait, what are they speaking? What's going on? What character is this? It creates a divide for me that makes it harder to watch.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't, now that you say that though, I bet you that's the next thing I focus on if I watch a movie where there's multiple languages. But yeah, that's something I didn't, because yeah, for me, I'm locked into the subtitles, because if I don't read them, then I'm going to ADD somewhere else. So I think that's all I had. Yeah, I think that's all I had. Like I said, I did watch Evil Dead Rise less than 24 hours after to make and to take all of the notes and the points I had, because I wanted to
have to go watch that after this episode.
It's still so goddamn good.
I think I'm gonna do a double feature.
Oh,
I think I'm gonna do Evil Dead Rise.
Okay.
Into Smile 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a great. That's actually great. Damn, yeah, that's great. Oh, I was gonna say, on the Evil Dead comparison to The Mummy, if we're basing that their movies are the same on demonic possession in a family, I guess Hereditary is an Evil Dead movie with less gore.
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
Yeah, 3 people in that movie get possessed by the same demons. Like,
yeah.
It's a less chaotic, less bloody Evil Dead. I mean, if we're basing that those 2 movies are the same for that reason, Hereditary is one. I'm sure I could think of other movies where like multiple people get possessed. Like, is that the basis for being an Evil Dead movie? Also, the Necronomicon, completely different lore than what we were presented. I mean, the lores are so vastly different as well.
Yeah. Well, and so one other thing. So actually, I have a couple things. So this is why we had to have this emergency show.
You're not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong.
So my wonderful partner Jessica,
okay,
she has college degrees.
All right,
and one of her college degrees is anthropology.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, she like has some actual like academia knowledge working behind this. And she was like, they took all of the mummy culture and just kind of did away with it to make it spooky. Like, mummies are very specifically like a reverence. Like, it was important to become a mummy, and the culture behind how they did it was like a huge part of that culture back then. And she was like, it was insulting to me to watch them take that and just go, oh no, let's make it scary. Just cause.
Yeah, Cronin did also state that because not typically, mummification was for pharaohs and people of high positions, and he was like, he wanted to flip that around and say, no, I want to see I want to see a regular person mummified and be under some sort of possession. Like he did flip that on purpose. So, but that's probably why maybe it didn't work for like Jessica. And I totally get that.
Fun fact about mummification that I actually not a fact about it, but in the 90s, these 2 scientists got permission from like their government and the people that they were working around. Somebody donated their body to science. They said, let's make a modern day mummy to try and figure out how they did it. And one of the scientists even went so far as to go to the Valley of the Kings and dig up the same minerals they used as a drying agent. Yeah. And they successfully made a modern day mummy. Go look up that study. So modern day mummy, that was a thing that we had already done.
Crazy.
Like as science.
Yeah.
Like there were papers about it. So that's really cool. One of the other things that I loved / hated about this movie was the score.
Okay.
I thought the score was super exciting. It was super fun, but at the same time, I was like, am I watching Star Wars? Like some of the music felt like Duel of the Fates.
Which is interesting because it's the same composer from Evil Dead Rise. Same composer, and that score was fucking great. Yeah, wow. Now that I'm thinking about it, the score was not something I can actually remember if I liked or not. So that's either one of 2 things. One, it wasn't strong enough for it to resonate with me, or it just fit into the movie so well I really wasn't noticing it. So I don't know.
The music was almost too excitedly uplifting. Like, I was like, oh yeah, battle time, when the whole like final sequence in the house with the kids and all of that's happening. I was like, this is not as dreary and spooky as it should be. Like it picked up the momentum, and I was like emotionally excited for what was going to happen, but I was not mentally in it, because it was like, oh, this is really good music, but it doesn't fit exactly for me.
I mean, this is something I'm probably going to go back to the theaters and rewatch, honestly, because I just
Jessica
want
and I have agreed that we will never rewatch this movie.
I just want to see if it I want to make sure it works for me a second time, because that's what I'm trying to do a lot this year with movies that I'm giving high ratings to. I try to either go back or I'll buy the physical and watch it again just to make sure I'm confident in my rating, because I'm trying to be very critical about my top 10 this year, even though I know there's 2 in there that are going to be like, what the fuck? I will leave everyone with this last thought here, because Lee Cronin has really not directed very many feature films. He only has 14 credits as a director. 1, 2, 3, 4 segments, 6 segments, a few shorts. And if you want to see something from Lee Cronin that is a completely original idea, it is based around real lore, but it's an original idea from him. It's called The Hole in the Ground. It's an early A24, I believe. I fucking love The Hole in the Ground. I think if you want something different from Lee Cronin, it's a little bit earlier, from 2019, not that much earlier. But I think The Hole in the Ground is a completely underrated movie that does not get talked about enough. And you can see a different side of Lee Cronin from this movie, because it is definitely different than the 2 movies he's put out in the last 3 years. So that is my ending thought. Any ending thoughts from Cory? Yes, it is an A24, just confirmed.
No, not really.
Oh, I guess
Not
ratings.
really.
I guess ratings. We got to do ratings.
Yeah.
We should probably do that.
Yeah, I gave this, and for as much as I've complained about this movie, I do want to state that I do really appreciate that people are at least trying to give us a horror renaissance, because us as horror fans, we deserve it. Cinema is fucking dead, and
dying.
It's really nice to see directors out there at least trying.
Yeah.
So I gave this a 2.5.
I assume no heart.
No heart. No.
No heart. Okay. So as it stands now, for me, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and the only reason, yeah, vast difference. The only reason it didn't get a 5.5 is, while I can't deny there are some Evil Dead similarities, I was like, it feels very original for a Mummy movie, but it vibed like a lot of other movies too. Like, it felt like it was picking from a whole lot of things, and I don't mind if it's homage or something, but it did feel slightly derivative of a few other movies.
It was poachy.
Yeah, it was like, are we doing this as homage? Or I don't feel like he would try to steal stuff and get away with it.
And I don't think it was intentional.
Right.
I think Lee Cronin was like, oh man, those few things in these few movies really fucked me up.
Right.
What if I could do something like that?
Yeah, and
then it just ended up accidentally going backwards into, I just did the thing that I saw on screen.
So yeah, that 2.5 from Cory, 4.5 from me. Lee Cronin actually has a few upcoming things in development. He's actually doing a full-length Ghost Train movie, which was a segment from a movie called Minutes Past Midnight. He's got Thaw, which I don't know if that's a remake of the 2011 Thaw. Ted and Box of Bones. So he's got a lot of things in development right now. I don't know if this is gonna. I don't know if the Mummy's gonna turn people off from his style. Because I mean, Evil Dead Rise was also very divisive among fans. You either loved it or you hated it. So I'm excited to see what he does next. But I would like to see. I want to see him tackle an original idea. We've got 2 IPs he's done: Evil Dead and The Mummy. I want to see him go back to his roots, like The Hole in the Ground, and do something from his own mind that would be different. You know what I mean? So I'm excited. I don't know if anybody else is, but I'll keep up with his career. So I think that's all we have. I don't know when this is going to release. Like I said, I think I might give it, let's see, it's the 20th today. Happy 420 to anybody who's celebrating. I think I'm going to release this probably on the 30th, because then that will give us 2 full weekends for people to watch. And then if you like this, if you want more video content from us, I have been contemplating doing video podcasts for YouTube. So engage with us, negative or positive. I don't care. Give us some feedback. Like, comment something.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, say, whatever. Say fuck your opinions. I don't know. Just give me something. So until we do this again, I guess stay tuned and
Stay spooky.